we're going to be talking about some topics which some of you may find triggering. So please do check out the show notes before listening. Today we're joined by Toni Frost from Safer Waves, a charity that offers confidential support to seafarers who've experienced sexual harassment or abuse while working at sea.
Where will we be if someone doesn't have the courage to say, don't say that, it's not nice? And that's all it takes sometimes in a group of like just one person saying that's not okay and that's not nice, don't say that, it's making everyone feel uncomfortable. And then you might find that people around you like go, yeah, and then the one person that's been saying it is the person that actually stands alone.
We're talking about something that affects crew culture everywhere, what happens when someone witnesses inappropriate behaviour on board, and why speaking up matters. Whether it's a comment that crosses the line or something more serious, knowing how to respond can make all the difference. So Toni shares some practical ways crew can respond safely and respectfully, including the 5Ds method, a simple framework for bystander intervention that anyone can use. Hello, Toni, and welcome to the Baddest Crew podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
It's really lovely to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Oh, no, it's wonderful to have you. And it's a great topic that we're going to be talking about today. Really important conversation. But I think let's start off with, Toni, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so my name's Toni Frost. I am a retired police officer, and in the last 20 months I've been working as the operations manager for Safer Waves, which is a charity, and we support crew that have suffered or are experiencing sexual violence or sexual harassment at sea.
And how long has it been running? How long has Safer Waves been running?
Safer Waves was created by our founder, Rebecca, in 2019. And she initially set it up as a website that would provide advice and guidance. And then it progressed to, we use software for an anonymous email should someone wish to contact us and explain what's happening, see how we can help them. And it's really grown since then. And now we support companies, organisations in the shipping industry to create an environment that is more aligned to a safer environment for seafarers. It's an uphill struggle.
Well, yes, I do agree with that. But I do think it is something that's being talked about a lot more, isn't it?
It is, very much so. Our mission for sure is to make it a free thing to speak about. Sometimes it alarms people when we openly speak about sexual violence at sea. But what we have to remember is that this is happening everywhere. And if we bury our head in the sand, then it for sure doesn't bode well with retention of staff, recruitment of crew. It would always going to help them if they do that, if they open their mind and open their policies, that this is something that they've thought about and they've considered and they've put things in place. It gives peace of mind to crew.
And you're so right. It is a topic, it is something that sadly does happen everywhere on a daily basis. But why do you think there's been a reluctance to talk about it in the maritime industry? Is it because of the niche industry and the niche living conditions, and it's harder to deal with?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. It's a very unique environment. It's predominantly male, has been for many years. Women have joined the industry across all sectors of the maritime industry, and there are some male crew that are reluctant to embrace that. They find it quite difficult. Organisations are keen to recruit females. I think that the unique environment that they live in needs to be adapted and provides a safe and secure living arrangement for everyone so that no one feels uncomfortable, both men and women, that they can work together side by side and have an open environment where they can speak freely and safely.
And do you think that comes from policies on board?
Definitely. And we're seeing now the MLC changes that have been put in place. In the past, the wording was harassment and bullying, and now they've been amended. And there will be harassment, including sexual harassment, bullying and sexual assault. And that's been amended and will come into play in December 2026. However, all the colleges and the maritime cadet colleges are now already, it's in in the syllabus and part of their training. And this is something that Safer Waves are very much involved in. We go into the colleges and we make sure that the cadets now from the bottom up are familiar with reporting lines, and the policies need to be written to fit in with the new guidance. Don't bury your head in the sand and pretend that this is not going to happen, because this is happening and MLC will be pushing this forward. And we need to make sure that all the organisations are, one, aware of the changes and the wording changes specifically, and two, that they put things in place to allow crew to feel safe and to know that that's there. So we're shouting it from the rooftops that, you know, these wording changes are going to happen, because this is definitely going to make a difference to seafarers and their life at sea.
So can we talk about that quickly then? Definitions, when you talk about sexual violence at sea or bullying, harassment, etc., there's a lot of definitions. Can you give us a brief summary of what is the difference between sexual harassment, sexual assault?
So a sexual harassment is when someone carries out unwanted sexual behaviour towards a person that kind of makes them feel upset or scared or offended or humiliated, especially if that's ongoing. When we talk about sexual assault, this is much more serious and involves touching on purpose and without the other person's consent. The consent is also another thing that people don't always understand, and we cover this in our courses that we run to support people and organisations, that they agree by choice, that they have both the freedom and the capacity to make that choice. So that's it in a nutshell, really. So it's like whether someone's being harassed is when they're feeling like it's unwanted behaviour, and when it comes to sexual assault, it's more touching and full-blown sexual intercourse.
And so just to give a couple of examples, sexual harassment, unwanted behaviour, it could be what is generally called as banter, which can be, you know, light-hearted bonding. It can be good fun, but when it crosses a line where it makes someone feel uncomfortable, where it's singling someone out maybe, or innuendos regarding their body, or...
Definitely. It's words and behaviour.
Words and behaviour.
Yeah, so if someone is making comments about how someone looks, what they should be doing, what they ought to be wearing, what they will get if they do something, these are all ongoing banter, perhaps, but it's harassment. Banter is a really difficult word. You know, as a police officer joining in the 90s, there's lots of been banter in my career, and this is something now that is slowly making a shift, and people are slowly changing their attitude and understanding that misogyny is not acceptable, and we must be very careful about what we say and the way we make people feel. And what historically has been banter, it's now understood more that how that makes people feel, and belittling them and making them feel not very worthy is not the way forward.
No, it's just being mindful, isn't it, of how your words are affecting other people and reading the room. And if that person is starting to look uncomfortable, then stop.
Absolutely. No, we talk a lot about standing up and being countered. So even if you don't feel that you're able to say, cut it out, that's enough, I don't find that funny, please don't say that, maybe someone on your behalf can. You know, sometimes you might have a strong pal or a strong friend that, you know, feels that they're able to say, don't say that, it's not right to say that. And that's the difference. That's when people can start to really feel that they are supported. And the more we get people to talk on behalf of others, of those that are not feeling as strong that day, then for sure that's going to make a difference.
No, absolutely. And then sexual assault, again, to give some examples, it could be where there's physical contact. And that can be, again, can be something that can seem quite minor to the person doing it, such as
brushing past someone
inappropriate. Yeah.
You know, like small spaces often on board, and perpetrators will put themselves into a position that they are in the way, maybe, or they have to squeeze past, and, you know, they may linger their hand a little too long on someone as they're passing, say something as they're going past, innuendos about anything that's happening, actually picking up on the small everyday things that people take for granted that they're doing, happening and someone turning it into a sexual innuendo. And that some people just seem to have the ability to do that. Everything that's happening, they can just turn it into something that it's not. And that becomes very draining, but it's also can make it very normalized for lots of people. Them around it, they'll think that this person is always like that. Oh, it's fine. He always speaks like that. He's harmless, but it's not harmless. And it's not something that we advocate to allow to continue happening.
And would it be the case, Toni, like with the people that you've spoken to and the cases that you've dealt with over the years, does it escalate? Can it be something that starts quite small, like the brushing past, and it just, unless it's dealt with, it would escalate?
100%. In relation to that, there's what we call the pyramid of violence. So the victimisation at first, the jokes, the lad culture, the what goes on ship stays on ship, boys will be boys, all that kind of thing. Victim blaming, it's what she's wearing, it's the way she's behaving, she's bringing it on herself. It starts with then unwanted touch. And then we might progress to a bit more next step up in abuse. And we might start to see real strong sexual harassment one-to-one. And, if phone numbers have been exchanged, for example, we see things at this level like dick pics, revenge porn, non-consensual photography of someone that they may share or threaten that they will share further. And then we start to see assault. And this is when we start to worry about if we had done something sooner, then maybe we could have checked this before it got here. It's not always easy to stand up and be counted. It really isn't. But the pyramid of violence is a very well-known writing on sexual violence. And so it is something that we really do need to take into consideration. When things start to happen, do something. Do something.
I think I just also wanted to, first of all, it's not just men that are guilty of this.
Yeah, Safer Wave supports both men and women, and we do have men report to us that they've also been victims of sexual assault at sea. So I just want to make that quite clear, that whilst we seem to talk about a lot, because the higher percentage are females that are victims to this situations, it does happen to men as well.
No, definitely. Just important to get that out there. So ICE1 have been doing a lot of work on this. They've recently released their 2024 annual review, and they reported a 21.4% year-on-year increase in the contact that they've received relating to abuse, harassment and violence. I mean, that's huge. Is it getting worse, or is it just being better reported?
I'd like to think it's getting better reported. I think that the word Safer Waves and ICE1, for example, but I know just can speak for ourselves that our name and our charity has been in the mouths of lots of different organisations, and we have been being contacted by all genres of the industry to support them and help them make the changes to make their staff feel more comfortable. So I think, definitely, it is being spoken about more. It's giving people the strength and the pathway in order to make a report, in order to know who to tell and how to do that. And it's not always that they want to report it. Sometimes they just need the support and guidance. We are all about giving them the choice to make those changes and make a difference. Now, that doesn't always mean they must report it to the authorities. It may mean that they do keep it internal, but we support them emotionally in how to do that, depending on the level of what's happened to them, of course.
Amazing. Can we talk a little bit about, we touched on banter earlier, and, we talked about how it can be fun, it can be bonding, but it can also be harmful when it crosses a line. And banter's generally, I think, a group exercise. So, the role of the onlooker, the person who's standing there who may be hearing inappropriate behaviour, the importance of them speaking up. What can they do?
So we actually run a course called the Active Bystander. So this fits perfectly with what you're asking. So we feel that handling an active situation, we call it the 5 Ds. So they can do a direct action, a distract action, a delegate action, a delay, or a document. So we would say for a direct action that someone would feel strong enough and safe enough to actually intervene right there and then as it's happening. So they may go over and say, what is going on here? This is not okay. Address the behaviour that they're seeing, call them out. Our advice is not to engage in arguing with the perpetrator. So, for example, you would say, what you said is sexist. You wouldn't perhaps say, you are sexist, because that's very direct at the person and cause even more of an issue.
Yeah.
So we would definitely always say to speak with the person that you are supporting. So go in and intervene, but talk to the person. Are you okay? Let's go. Let's move you away from this. We don't have to put up with this. So you keep your attention on the person who's being harassed. And then we have the distract. So for distraction, this is all about interrupting the behaviour. So if you don't feel that you're strong enough to intervene in the direct manner I've already spoken about, then you can distract. So you can do something, cause a commotion, you can shout over, you can, if it's someone that you haven't seen for a while, say they're not actually on board, they're say in a bar or something, you can go over and say, oh wow, listen to this, like I just saw, I haven't seen you for ages, how's your mum? How's this? How's your brother? How's that? So you can kind of deviate off what's going on. You can even say, if you're on the ship, say, I'm sure I just saw whatever, penguins or dolphins. I'm sure I just saw them. Come and see, come and have a look. These sort of things are distraction techniques. And then we sort of move to delegate. And this is where you would get assistance. So you would ask someone to help you. You would go and find someone like, I think there's a problem. Can you help us? I think there's an issue going on. You have to be very careful with this, because actually the person that is suffering from this experience may not want you to do that. So it is something that you have to be pretty sure that it's the right thing to do at that time. And then we have delay. So if you think it's really not safe to do anything and you don't want to intervene, or even despite a distraction, you just really don't feel like you can, then you can go to them afterwards. And you can say, look, I saw what was going on there. Is everything okay with you? Do you feel like there's something that I can do to help you? Actually, for example, I know this charity that can really give you some help and support around this. Do you want me to help you report to them? You can just send them an email. Or, you can just reinforce that the perpetrator was out of order. And if they want your help, then you can help them. And then the final D is document. So you have to be careful sometimes, but if you can video what's happening on your phone discreetly maybe, or record voices. If it's something that you're hearing that you just think this is not good, then this is something you could keep and shut for use later. Or if you see something and you don't want to intervene, you can go away and perhaps write it down, what you saw happen, what you heard, where they were, what they were wearing, how it felt, because later on you can perhaps say to the person, I wrote these few notes because I just wasn't comfortable with what was happening, and I didn't know whether you needed any help, but I'm doing the best I can, and if you want me to help, then I will help. Throughout all these 5 Ds, we always say the golden rule is only intervene when it's safe to do so. So don't put yourself in any harm, but for sure there are things that you can do as a bystander to either step up and say no, or just support them in some other ways.
And it's not, a lot of this, I think, but please let me know if you disagree, a lot of this boils down to education. There is a culture that has been embedded for many, many decades that we are now trying to educate, certainly the male community, to change their mindset, to change their approach to what is and isn't acceptable. And so having those conversations, it's okay. It's okay to talk to somebody and say, actually, that's not okay anymore. You can't say that. It doesn't always come from a harmful place. Sometimes it is unintentional. Sometimes it is just guys being guys, girls being girls, goofing around. They say something wrong. It's okay to pick them up on that and just say, look, that's actually
totally. And it's actually okay to have a laugh. boys and girls, men and women, there's always been that sort of backwards and toing and froing with joking and stuff. It's just sort of knowing where your boundaries are, or actually reading the room and knowing where their boundaries are, and having the emotional intelligence to think, oh, that fell flat, that did that. I won't say that again. Knowing yourself a little bit more, and taking a look at yourself and thinking, why did I say that? Because that's not actually what I think like, and it's not what I agree about. So why did I say that? Or for example, like, why did I laugh when he said that when I don't actually agree with it? And I think, education is a job for us all. It's not just for Safer Waves, and it's not just for Burgess Yachts crew staff. It's for us all to take some accountability, to look at the way we're behaving and people around us, and making sure that everyone feels okay.
It's creating that culture, isn't it? That safe
It's breaking the culture in regards to not saying let's not have fun. We're not saying that. What we're saying is make sure that everyone feels heard and seen, and that everyone's thoughts and feelings are, and culturally across the world, obviously we deal across the world as you do, and culturally one country's belief is different to another, and sometimes you have to say that's not okay to say that, and they're shocked too, and they're like, really? And we've had this recently where like someone saying something like, you can't say that, and like, why? I've always said that. And like you say, it's down to education, because they've always said it, or they've heard that's been said so many times before, and they've learned from people perhaps older than them that have spoken that way and got away with it, and no one's challenged it, so it's become okay, and so then they say it, and then actually that can escalate to worse things, and if that's let get away with again, then where are we going to end up? Where will we be if someone doesn't have the courage to say, don't say that, it's not nice? And that's all it takes sometimes in a group of like just one person saying that's not okay and that's not nice, don't say that, it's making everyone feel uncomfortable. And then you might find that people around you like go, yeah, and then the one person that's been saying it is the person that actually stands alone.
And that's the difficult bit about being that one person that actually calls it out and speaks up, is that you are actually raising your head above the parapet. You are making yourself a target for potential.
Yes, you are. And
harassment.
If you don't feel that you're that person, and not everyone is that person, then, you can go to them after and say, I saw what happened. I want to help you if I can. I'm so sorry I didn't do anything at the time, but I just didn't feel that I was able to do that. Maybe I could do something. Now I know this person on shore crew support who's really would be able to help us with this. Would you like me to help you? Or shall we together? Or shall we report this person that's behaving in this way? You don't have to be a brave soldier and go and do something at the time. Sometimes you can do it after and stop this behaviour.
It's that balance, isn't it, of knowing when it's not intended to be harmful, and so it just needs a quiet word to explain that that's not okay, to actually we need to escalate this to the head of department, to the captain.
We had recently an example of this, actually. A captain had, and this wasn't, he didn't witness anything sort of like sexual harassment towards any person, but he heard two crew members talking, and they were making jokes about rape and sexual assault, and they were literally just making jokes, but banter between men, which stepped over the mark. And he actually felt that he needed to say something, so that's what he did do. And what he did, and told them that it was inappropriate and they were to stop speaking like that on his ship, then he might actually change their opinion and be able to improve and prevent something in the future. And he actually reported to us that that's what had happened, and that he'd done that so that he could do his bit, and that we're finding more and more now that men are actually coming to us and saying we're getting supported a lot by male seafarers that actually want to make a difference. We've had some fundraising by just random males that just think what we're doing is amazing. We've been in colleges recently and do our course to the cadets, and we do it to national cadets and international cadets in the UK, and the feedback has been excellent. They feel it's really relevant, even though the room is actually full of boys boys and men. It's about everyone understanding that it's not okay. It's not about just telling girls what they can do if it happens, or what they can do to protect themselves, or stop putting yourself in this situation. These people are equal on board, and so they need to be able to feel equal. So we talk to all men and women about our service and make sure that everyone knows that we are here to make changes in an environment that, not just this environment, in a world where historically it's been okay to say sexual comments to females, and now it's becoming more and more not okay.
I also love the differing approaches, because historically it's always like, I've always grown up and the messages have always been aimed at the females to not dress a certain way to attract certain attention, not to walk the streets alone at night, not to do this, not to do that. And whilst those messages, some of them were very wrong, but you know, a lot of them are intended to keep women safe, the education is now focusing more on the men and actually what they need to do to not make women feel uncomfortable, not make women feel unsafe, or men. And I love that change in approach.
It's definitely shifting across all avenues of society, and that is really good to hear. We're still a long way to go, but we are definitely seeing that shift in, it's not a girl's fault if she's raped because of what she wore or the way she behaved, because consent is that something you agree to by choice, and you can actually withdraw that consent at any time. I always say, for example, if someone they might have a kiss with someone, and maybe it's the start of a relationship. If that very quickly progresses to something that you're not comfortable with, then it's absolutely right and proper that you say, no, I'm not comfortable with that. And anything that happens after that is sexual assault. And we need to be very clear that, that people understand. That's why these courses we've been running really looks at consent and the sexual harassment and sexual assault definitions, to make sure that not only people that could become victims of these crimes, but also people that are bystanders to them or perpetrators, that actually know that these things are being spoken about more openly. And perhaps if I say X, Y, Z, I could come in hot water here. And so if that's enough to, make someone think twice before they say or do something, then we will keep drumming forward with our mission to make sure that everyone is aware of what is okay and what's not okay, and that in this day and age, the seafarer and the maritime industry is just the same as any other industry, with a unique environment that needs a little bit special help to make sure that people feel safe.
Can we talk a little bit more about consent when alcohol is involved? Can you consent when you are drunk? Is that consent? If you are so inebriated that you can't actually make rational decisions?
If a person is completely intoxicated, then they cannot give consent, because they're not, the capacity is gone. It's all about the capacity. So if they're suffering from mental illness, drugs or alcohol to a high degree, intoxicated, completely intoxicated, then they cannot give consent. And it is something that it's a difficult one when it comes to investigation and prosecution. It will always raise its head, and it's for the legal bodies to make a change and make a difference. Legally, a person who is unconscious or incapacitated by alcohol can absolutely not consent to sexual activity. So if you wake up in the morning, you went to bed and you wake up in the morning and there's someone beside you and clear sexual activity is taking place, that is outside of consent. Alcohol can impair communication, so it can make it difficult to convey or determine consent.
And again, as an onlooker, like if you're in the bar, you see one of your colleagues, one of your friends getting that drunk, and you see that it's heading in that direction, is it important to step in and say, I think you need to go to bed and I think you need to...
Absolutely. I guess you're talking about when they've got their off time and people are enjoying sort of relaxing. It's quite difficult when you've been in a situation where you've not had a few drinks for a while and you've not had a chance to let your hair down. And sometimes it takes a pal and a friend to step in and say, come on, let's go home. It's time to go back to our beds, because this is not going to end well. Even to take someone to one side and say, you're really drunk. Because sometimes you need to be told that. I'm sure in my time that people have said, you're really drunk, and you like think, oh God, am I? You know, like, do I sound drunk? So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
that's absolutely, that's what a
Yeah.
friend
Yeah.
is all about.
And we don't make our best decisions, do we, when we're drunk? But it's also protecting both parties, because, again, if it's a girl that's really drunk and a guy that's taking her back to his cabin, he may not be aware that actually her being that drunk equates to non-consensual sex.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
protecting him as well from getting himself potentially into some bother.
This is all like what we've talked about, education and understanding.
Yeah.
And if you're the pal of a guy, then yeah, say to him, oh, I wouldn't if I were you. She's really drunk here. You know, you could get yourself in a situation here. I wouldn't. Let him know what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And like, let him then make his own choices. I mean, he may say, mind your own business, but it's always a good thing to, at least you'll know you've done your thing. You've done your bit. And you said, you know, I wouldn't if I were you. She's really drunk. Because there's no fun in that anyway, let's face it.
No, but again, also at that point, you know, I would think about maybe escalating it to someone senior on board.
I think through all this, we need to always remember that know who your trusted person is on board. And that may be the captain, or it may not be. It may not be someone like higher ranking. It may be someone that's just above you, and someone that you can go to and say, oh, I'm in a fix here. I'm in a bit of a pickle here. And I'm seeing this happening, but I'm actually not quite sure how to help. Can you help?
Yeah,
It's about
absolutely.
knowing who to go to. And
Yeah. A lot of the people that I've spoken to on these podcasts have talked about the yacht crew being their tribe. You know, it's their community, it's their trusted group of people. And there are going to be situations where your tribe just need to pull together and just either call something out when they see something, protect somebody when they, you know, both parties, when they see it heading in a wrong direction. It's just that culture on board of safe space.
I think it's like going back to saying that it's their tribe. I think like it's often like that in lots of organisations. I'm a retired police officer. You can take me out the police, but you'll never take the police out of me because it's inside me for so many years. And they will always feel like a family to me. There are trusted colleagues of mine in the past that will remain friends with me forever. And they are people that I can go to and say, this has happened. You know, I might not speak to them for ages, but this has happened. Same in the yacht industry, I'm sure, you know. I'm sure there's like, they move around. They're very transient, moving from yacht to yacht to yacht, but they'll have pals that are on other yachts that they can go to and say, oh, blimey, this is like, on this yacht, this has happened and that's happened. And what shall I do? And sometimes that's all you need. Like, problem shared is a problem halved. And it just makes you feel like, right, okay, I'm not trying to deal with this on my own. Even if it's not, you're not the victim, you're watching someone else just behave in an inappropriate way. And you're just like, not quite sure how to deal with it. You know, watch the other people and see who else is like annoyed by this person's behavior and actions. And like, ask them, like, what do you think we can do to like help him out?
Or her. And
or her.
Not forgetting us as, you know, the yacht management company. What can we do? What can we do to help support and encourage that safety culture on board?
I think it's all about having an open line of conversation, making that pathway for someone to speak to you guys known. And right from the beginning, from the training, that this behaviour will not be tolerated in your organisation. And this is what you can do if you see this happening. Have it written in your safeguarding policies and your behaviour policies, and also what the consequences are should something be reported, the investigation of how it will go and what would happen. I think if you start at the bottom, when people join in cadetship, and when they're joining your yacht company in time, all those youngsters that are joining now, this is my hope and dream why we talk to cadets so much, in time there will be a bigger percentage of seafarers that know it's not okay and know how to stand up and say, no, that's not okay, and we're not going to allow that to happen. And I think that in the future, it's just going to take time.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Having a pathway is definitely knowing where they can go to for help is what's important, because we hear too many times they didn't know where to turn. They write to us and say, we've told X, Y, and Z and still nothing's happened. And so I think A, knowing how they can report to you, and B, knowing what you will do, and C, actually letting them see that something has happened.
And also trust the process, trust that, because we do, certainly for Burgess Yacht Crew, the complaints procedure is attached with their contract and it gives them multiple different pathways. It's, it's the DPA, it's the flag state details are on there. So trust in that process. Well, I mean, this chat, we could go on for hours, couldn't we? Because it is such a massive topic. It is, there is so many areas to look at. It's vast, but I think, the work that you guys are doing is amazing. And if anyone listening wants to get in touch, whether they want to learn more, you mentioned earlier that you do ride training sessions. How do they find you? How do they find Safer Waves?
If you Google Safer Waves, we will come up. We have a great website with lots of guidance. Even if you just want to take a look at what we're about, we have legal fact sheets on there for, I think there's about 9 or 10 countries on there now, where should you put your nearest port that after what's happened be somewhere that you need to seek advice from, and it's on one of our fact sheets, then it will show you how you can go about that, who you can contact. So that's also really, really good. And then on there we have our support at saferwaves.org, which is our secure email where it's anonymized by software that we have in place. So your name is redacted, as is your return email. We reply via the software, and we can just support you without judgment, giving you choices and telling you what you can and can't do, because there's nothing you can't do, but what you can do to support and help yourself. We also have now some lawyers that work for us pro bono to give small sessions to people that we refer that we think would benefit from having some legal advice. So there is lots on our website. So do go to our website, take a look at it. Even if you just go and have a look, understand it, you never know when you might be able to use something you read to help someone or yourself.
And you also work with Ice One as well, don't you?
Yes, we work alongside Ice One. We've met with them this week actually about a collaboration project that we're doing together, all to do in the good of supporting seafarers. Obviously, our email is not spontaneous. Sometimes we reply quickly, sometimes we can't reply quite as fast, but they do have a 24-hour helpline, and they will refer to us should they feel that that's more suitable for them to contact us via our email address.
Well, amazing work, Toni. And I think, to summarise, look out for each other, respect each other.
If you see something, say something.
Yeah,
and whether that be at the time, after, to someone else, do something. We even have people email us and say, we've been seeing this happening and I don't know what to do about it. And we can give them advice as well, tell them what they can do to help their colleagues or whoever.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Toni. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck with the project, and I'm sure we will speak again. Thank you, Toni.
Thank you.